And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of Outdoor Journal Radio.
Well, hello there. Welcome to the program Outdoor Journal Radio. I'm Angelo and Pete. He is Peter Bowman.
Hi.
Viva la viva.
Viva la Bova.
I'm thinking,
Viva Las Vegas.
South of the border, baby.
Hey, but Las Vegas hit 120 degrees yesterday.
No kidding.
120. Hottest day yet, they said in the
Beautiful.
city.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I wish I was there.
In the city. Hotter in the desert.
Well, no kidding. At one time, I tell you how much different it is. I went down in August one time with Ezio Zabrizzi, remember?
Love
and
Ezio. Good guy.
we rented a couple Harleys.
Yes, I remember that little
deal. The intent was, let's go down and we'll, get the bikes for a couple of days and we'll go up into the mountains or we go over to the canyon, whatever we want. We had no particular agenda, right? And it was August and the temperatures were in the mid 90s Fahrenheit. And we figured, you know what? That's doable. A couple of young...
With your leathers on there.
Young boys. No, there's no leathers involved in that. So anyways, we got the bikes, and it was like 96, 97 in the city, but 114 where we went. I'll tell you what, that's so hot. When you're riding in 114 degree Fahrenheit weather, it is so hot that you can't go more than 20 miles. 30 kilometers. You have to pull over. Yeah. You dehydrate so quickly.
Oh my
you got to
God.
hydrate. You got to constantly hydrate. And of course the heat is exaggerated because of the heat of the motorcycle that you're sitting on.
Jeez.
So all that heat is rising from the oh wow. But we had a good time.
Should have sat by the pool and drank beer. That's a good way of hydrating.
The only thing I can tell you is that 2-day rental turned into about a 6-hour rental. So you know how much time we spent on the bike after that. Anyways, welcome to the show. A wonderful episode as per usual. I was saying the usual cast of over there behind the camera, Nick, absent from his seat as usual, and Dean, our producer, over on the board. Why is it that when the show starts, Nick leaves? He's usually there beforehand.
We got to be boring the shit out of him. He's got to be bored.
But I mean, have you noticed that? He's usually there milling around. He's working with Dean. He's working with
playing games on his computer.
Exactly.
Gaming.
And then as soon as Dean says, okay, 5, 4, 3, I look around and he's gone. Maybe that's his countdown. That's Nick's countdown to get the hell out of here. Final countdown. I wish I was Nick.
Poo.
Wonderful program, though, regardless of what Nick's doing, because later on in the show...
It's all about Nick. It's always about Nick. That's what he wants. He wants us to talk about it.
Of course.
See?
We'll be joined by a father and son team. Cue the sound. There you go. Who are
scary.
from California.
Going to
and they were recently visiting Quebec, Canada, on a bit of a vacation. And while they were frolicking in the water,
awesome.
As that music will tell you, just when you thought it was safe to go into freshwater little ponds, kiddies.
Shark bite.
That's right. Another exclusive on Outdoor Journal Radio. We'll have an interview with father and son, young Max, George's dad. And young Max was in the water, and yes, he was attacked by something that speculation has it that it's a muskie. We're not really sure yet. We'll be talking to them here live from California somewhere. We're not sure
can't
where
wait to hear that one.
from.
That's another one of those stories, man.
It goes with the story. Of course, we broke a story way back, I think 2 years ago now. Am I right, Dean, on that? Was it 2 years ago?
2022.
Yeah.
2022.
From Menaki area. So a couple from Manitoba were in the Menaki area, and she...
That was a nasty one, that one.
Wow. That was...
she got beat up good.
Kim Driver.
That was a muskie, though. They
picture
saw that.
There's a picture of that. I mean, she got bitten like bad. But what was interesting about this one is that she's a full-grown adult, and the fish apparently dragged her under the water. We're not so sure that this happened with young Max. How old is Max? Do we know? Is he Is there an age on him?
I thought he was 9, but
9 years old, like little kid. Fortunately, the fish
Wow,
did
that's
not
traumatic, man,
pull
for a kid.
Max under the water. But we'll get the whole story from them in a few minutes. Needless to say, these attacks are very few and far between, very rare. The only reason we report them is not to instill fear in people.
It's because of the uniqueness of it.
It's so bizarre.
It's just so unique. Like Ange and I have fished our whole lives as well as anybody listening and watching. And how many of you have been attacked by a muskie? Probably 0, maybe a couple at most. You know what I mean? Of the millions and millions of listeners. You know.
And even saltwater fish. I mean, I've swam with barracudas in the oceans and fed them and nothing. But
sharks. You swam with sharks that didn't bite
fed
you.
Sharks. So I know it just seems weird. I'm not saying it's not happening. Certainly, the frequency that Pete said is not there. But we're always fascinated to find out if we can sort of figure those little
we as
fishes
humans,
out.
though, we like that kind of like if a tiger attacks a guy on top of an elephant, I gotta watch that on YouTube. Hunter showed me that the other day. It's like, I gotta see that. What the, So I don't know. There's something about it. I guess people are.
There is
intrigued.
that, and I think certainly in my case, I'm thinking of yours too. We handle so many of these predator fish.
Oh God, yeah.
Whether it's muskies or pike, we just finished a shoot in NWT where we were surrounded by giant northern pike, and we obviously had to handle a lot of them for releasing them. And never did it never crossed my mind as you're cradling this fish, bringing it back to life and helping it, with the release. Never dawned on you, wow, this thing could turn around and bite me.
Yeah, exactly. Now our hands were bit up, but that's our own stupidity, grabbing them wrong. And they're not trying to bite you; they're just thrashing and trying to get away, right? So, but that just shows you how sharp these teeth are, because you could imagine, because we've all been, you and I have both been bit in our hands. Can you imagine when one bites you, like literally, takes a shot? Oh my God!
Well, based on the scars that we see,
that's a nasty setup of scars,
from,
isn't it?
Max, I don't know whether we have that image available to us.
There it is.
There it is. There, based on the scars I'm seeing on
that one right there, man.
That nasty. That is nasty. And look how big it is. I mean, it's
that's substantial.
So, anyways,
Max.
all coming up here very shortly. Before we go to any of that, we just want to remind you a little bit of business. We got to do some business.
Yes, sir.
I want to remind you about fishingcanada.com, the gateway, the portal to your next fishing adventure, regardless of what you're looking for. If it's fishing, if it's outdoors, you, my friends, will find it on fishingcanada.com, along with a plethora of goodies that those folks are giving away every single... Oh, the clothing, too. I forgot. Thank you, Dean. The swag.
The swag, look at you. I think it's a new shirt, isn't it? Have you had that for a while, or it's a new one?
I got it. That's new.
This is new, for sure.
Of course, this is all new.
These are really new. These look really, really, really good.
This is the hottest item
so hot that we don't have any. Do you have one yet?
No.
No, I don't have one either.
No.
That's how hot. They're just going out the door.
Yeah, we've got, this is a new take on an old Fishing Canada logo, of course.
Get that guy with the guy's leg right there, having him chomping on.
These are the embroidered line, the beautiful embroidery.
They're really nice. Like, honestly, they're so sweet.
But there's all kinds of goodies there. When you go, you'll find hats, toques, T-shirts. We can go on and on. But we don't have time to go on and on.
I want to do one quick shout out, Angelo. Before that, we always skip the Fishing Canada season because I know it's the new season, not new anymore. But anybody that misses the Fishing Canada show, remember we do have a YouTube channel. We have a Fishing Canada YouTube channel, and you can get all our episodes plus a bunch more there. So just keep that in mind and check it out.
Are those episodes in their entirety, Dean, on YouTube? So there's nothing has been other than commercials.
They've been ripped out. Yeah, it's been just it's better for you. You don't have to watch the commercials. So there you go.
And who doesn't love Fishing Canada commercials, by the way?
I mean, I watch them all the time, right? I don't watch the show. I just watch the commercials. I don't like those two idiots on there, to be honest with you.
Do you remember the great commercials we used to have on that show? The ones we produced?
I like that Mercury one we did with the cutouts.
The Muscal ones were great.
Muscal was
good too.
Great.
Yeah, quite a production for sure, right?
We used to, Coleman's were great.
Yeah, I had a bunch of them.
When... I don't know. It was a different era, and I don't want to sound like I remember when, but I do remember when creative content was produced based on the program that was airing the commercials. And not just us. I mean, everybody was doing it. It didn't matter what the show was. They would actually theme the commercials to dovetail with the production. What a novel idea. Hello, agencies that are listening.
I see so many stupid commercials out there now, and just in regular television. There's so many. I look at them and say, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen." And then all of a sudden, there'll be a good, simple, funny one that you just go, "That's a good advertisement." You know what I mean? You remember the jingle, you remember everything about it. So
you know what comes to my mind when I see those commercials that you're talking about, those dumb commercials. I say to myself, somebody had the balls in a big agency boardroom to pitch this concept.
Yeah.
To a client and say, I got a great idea for you. And then, of course, they would do, and then they say, what do you think? Isn't it great?
The client doesn't want to hurt the client doesn't want to hurt their feelings.
That's really good.
Nowadays, you can't hurt your feelings. So go ahead with that. We'll spend a couple million on that. No problem.
Anyways, I'm just saying. They used to be great. So that's it. FishingCanada.com, gateway portal to your next fishing adventure. The show's on YouTube. We got all that covered. Dean, anything there I'm missing? Because I know you like to pick on me afterwards.
Nope.
No?
As long as we talk about the comment.
New season. Well, we're going to go to listener feedback, right? That's coming up here now. A listener feedback, Mr. Bowman. What do we got?
Yes, we have from @SaskAngler24 via YouTube.
We've had that name before.
It sounds familiar. Sask. A lot of people use the Sask. Our Saskatooners, they all like to put that Sask in there.
Saskatooners.
Hey, Saskatoon, eh? Hey, what's up, ladies? You got to remember that. That's the best scene ever. Sask Angler says, I guided at Brabant. It's really Brabant.
Well, the owners told me it was. I asked them because I wanted to be correct when we were shooting there.
I understand.
And
but the owner's straight English. He's strictly English.
It doesn't matter. He's the owner, and therefore what he says, I agree with.
Yeah, it's Brabant.
He says Brabant.
En français.
Because it's Brabant Island. You know that.
Ask la dame, madame, la dame.
Well, how the hell? Okay, we're in NWT. I can understand it if I go east of Cornwall. I can understand how we need to pronounce things different. We're in the Northwest Territories, for Christ's sakes. How much farther away from Quebec do you want to be before you can start saying stuff the way we wrote it?
They're not that far. There's a plane ride, away. Mm-hmm. That's the only problem I say is that Brabant is because I have relatives, Brabant. So there's
a surprise.
Yvan, Brabant.
Is there any group of people that old Gordy Bowman didn't?
That was Rita's side.
Was that Rita's side?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so she was a bit of a partier too, then.
Oh, Rita knew how to party. There was lots of peoples in this family, buddy.
You guys, the Bowmans are everywhere on this planet. They come out of the woodwork.
Imagine when the Bowmans are related to the Brabants. This doesn't make sense, does it?
That looks like Brabant.
I guided at Brabant for a few seasons about 15 years ago. I lived in northern Saskatchewan ever since and fished many of the most famous pike lakes in Canada. And the Mackenzie is still the best pike fishing I've ever seen.
There you go. There you go. We said that, did we not, on our podcast when we were right there on the docks? We said there are many great pike fisheries on this planet, and we've been blessed with the opportunity to fish a lot of them from coast to coast. But I got to tell you something. There's a lot of other things wrong with where we were fishing on the Mackenzie. But it ain't their pike fishing, because it is world class.
What was wrong with it?
World class. Other things? We lost power.
Bugs?
We had it's daylight with the exception of about 3 hours a day.
Daylight in the swamp.
We had all kinds of cold weather. We had wind. We had you name it all. We had all of that stuff, and yet I got to tell you, even through all of that, the pike fishery that they have there, I would love. And we apparently did not get it at its peak.
Yeah, the day we left, the 2 days after we left, they just pounded. Well, they turned on our last day there, and then the boys just started really railing into them.
I can't imagine when they're hopped up. I can't imagine.
I thought about this the other day. It's kind of like, it's almost like our steelhead runs here in Ontario, or even maybe in BC, where they come upriver to spawn. Yeah. And then they go back out to the lake. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like what these pike are doing. And it's to get the best of the best. The biggest females, biggest males are in there doing their thing. And they receive
Except for one thing.
They got teeth.
No, there's that too.
Two things.
The odd part about this whole thing that we experienced there, is that unlike our steelhead or salmon or any steelhead or salmon, even the original West Coasters, they go into the river and they go upriver against the current going up.
Mm-hmm.
This was the opposite.
Downriver.
These fish are going with the current into the river, and then they have to fight it to get back into the lake. So mentally, I was wrestling with that.
Pike are a little different, eh?
They're different
just a
for
different
sure.
Animal, right?
So
it's all about sex. It's always about sex, though. When you think
but you
about
would
it.
think that the majority of the pike in that area,
They don't give a shit, bud. There's some women in there ready to go. RTG, ready to go. Let's go, boys. Let's go down with the current. We'll get down there nice and quick.
we
We'll
can make
ride
it
the
back
current.
up.
Well, who cares? We'll
but
get
they're
back.
They're not thinking. They're full of energy and strength and in top prime condition
Let's
when
go.
they're floating down
Hello,
the river.
ladies.
And then they sex themselves out. They're all beat up and full of pain and suffering. And now they got to fight this current going back.
Shit. No, not again. I do this every year. I keep forgetting.
Oh, God. Anyways, a very strange fishery, but
It's so awesome. It really is. I mean, if you could sit there, if Angela and I could have sat there for 2 weeks and really dialed it in, it would have been absolutely unreal. The fish you would have caught. So
even the pattern that we were fishing was odd.
Yeah.
For pike.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. It really was.
Totally.
You're thinking
strange.
spawning back bays.
Right?
Main river,
current, rocks, edges. So where we were fishing, for the most part, the current is flowing either into a ledge or alongside the ledge, constantly flowing. And I'm assuming the spawning was taking place just above.
I think so.
In about 1.5 feet, 2 feet of rock. That's what it looked like. And we were catching them right on that edge, which the edge dropped into 4 or 5 feet. That was the pattern. Solid rock, a little bit of weed here and there, but solid rock. But the amazing part is that the current is flowing into it. I don't even understand what the hell they were doing there.
Yeah.
It was weird.
They were post spawn, so maybe they did their spawn thing and then just drop right to there and feed up like crazy. Maybe that thing is shooting all kinds of, because it's a river channel, right? It's the route.
So you don't think they were spawning up in the shallow
Yeah, I'm
water?
thinking they were spawning, then they move out to that, and then say, okay, let's recoup
that's
here.
the first place where
recoup
they
and eat,
Yeah,
and then
maybe.
go.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that makes sense.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
It was bizarre.
Because I think don't they have to spawn in weeds like pike and muskie? Do they not have
I
to
think
drop
so.
their eggs on weeds so they don't go down in the substrate and lose the eggs or something like that?
But I don't think there's much mud and clay there. It looked like just rock.
Yeah, just rocks, so maybe they can get
So
away
they-
with it there.
they
Drop them on the rocks, just like walleye do.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I don't imagine there'd be an awful lot. I could be wrong on this one, because I usually don't think of other predators there too. But so they drop their eggs. I mean, one of the reasons they do them in weeds and shallow back bays is to keep themselves away, their eggs away from other fish that might be moving in and eating them up. On those rocks, if there were no weeds and they were just dropping on rocks, you would think, and I'm thinking panfish and stuff, but there are no panfish in there.
Yeah.
They can't be. So
Yeah.
they're probably safe, all scattering their eggs all along the rock tops.
I know walleye, when they try to find rubble, so the eggs go between the rocks.
Between the
and
rocks,
so
yeah.
they're protected. Maybe that's what these guys
Well,
do there. You
in
never
fact,
know.
where we were fishing for walleye, that's
what it
probably
was.
what
Yeah,
it was,
that's
right?
what it
It was
was.
all rubble.
Yeah.
Remember, both shorelines
Yeah.
were rubbly, and that's exactly what was happening there.
Yeah.
And by the way, did we mention the walleye fishery on this river?
Woo.
I'm sure we have. If it wasn't for the fact that the pike fishing was such an incredible experience, we'd probably be babbling on about the great walleye fishery
Yeah.
on the Mackenzie River.
Yeah.
Right?
Even Peter at the lodge doesn't even talk about the
Yeah,
walleye.
you want to
Yeah,
talk
you
about-
guys
yeah,
can look
it
up
is
for if you
small,
want
yeah.
in an evening. Yeah, do it. But our pike, it's freakishly good. So, anyways,
Anyways.
thanks for Sask Angler 24 via YouTube. That was great. That was a good one.
For those of you who didn't know, this, in fact, is a podcast network. Yes, we are the Outdoor Journal Radio podcast, the show.
Come on now.
But it's all part and parcel of the network. One of the programs on the network is, relatively new, although one of the hosts has been with us from day one.
Yep.
Called Untamed Pursuits, and it's being highlighted on the network.
Give me a hell
Right
yeah!
now. Yes, sir,
indeed.
Stevie.
Indeed.
In fact, they just dropped episode 3. their guest was Tyler Dunn, who we've worked with.
Tyler is an awesome dude, great guy, fantastic angler, and a guide extraordinaire.
By the way,
sure.
These are the two hosts of the show. I don't know,
Ryder and Jamie.
Here, and I'm sorry,
Jamie Pistilli.
That's right.
Metalhead.
Metalhead.
Jamie's a metalhead.
Yeah, he's another knucklehead. I'm metalhead.
Yeah, he's a knucklehead.
Like you.
All right, you got that right. Tyler Dunn. It's good. I haven't heard this one yet, but I can't wait to hear it because I know Tyler, and he is so avid, so passionate. From anybody that I've talked to that has hired Tyler, we've recommended people to Tyler, and they all rave about this guy. He's multi-species, living in Sault Ste. Marie. He does all the river stuff, of course. The
Does he
Atlantic
go outside
salmon.
of the Sioux area to fish? Does he?
Yep. But he does all the small lakes. He does Nipigon trips every year. He does Nipigon trips by himself with his buddies, and he guides up there if you want to go on a guided trip up there. So that's a bit of a trek from Sault Ste. Marie. So, and he's getting very good. He teaches fly fishing. He does gear fishing. He pretty much does it all. Bass. He's really good. Does bass tournaments with him in Adam Valley. So he knows his stuff. Like, he's one of those guys that just knows his stuff. You know what I mean?
I was just thinking about something. I don't know how. I don't want to get you off track, but if I don't come up with it, I'll forget it in a minute. There was a great TV series that was out. Maybe some of you recall it. I don't remember the name of it, unfortunately. I think it was produced somewhere in Europe. It wasn't a U.S.-based show, although they did a lot of work in the U.S., where they took guides from around the world, and each one of these guides were at the top of the food chain in their particular area, and they would put pit three guides against each other every week on an episode in a part of the world where and now I remember the actual. So every week it would be a 3-parter every episode, and one episode they would have to fish in the home range of one of the guides. Right. So the other 2 guides were at a disadvantage, and then they'd go back. So by the time they were done, they'd fished in all 3 areas that the guides were familiar with, and they would rank each other to see who was best at adapting to conditions in those areas where. I
remember something about that. Was it on WFN, maybe? World Fishing Network?
I can't remember.
Sounds like something they would put on.
It was spectacular.
Yeah.
I think it only lasted for 1 season.
It's too expensive. That'd be
but it was,
hell of an expense, right? Because they had a good job of it and all the travel.
And they were all exotic things that they were doing. It was great. Anyway, sorry. I was just thinking, because I was thinking of Tyler. I was scared. We should take Tyler. We should take Jamie and all the other guides that we've worked with. Put them
do the
in
same
a competition.
Yeah,
somehow
that'd be good,
together.
That would be good. Yeah. We know enough guides. It'd be a melting pot of great talent. I'll tell you that right now.
Yep.
So, anyways, that's the Untamed Pursuits, the latest episode number 3 from their podcast, and it's they're doing good. They sound really good.
Doing great. We'd appreciate all of you giving them a hand. Obviously, the way the podcast industry works, we need people to listen, we need people to download, and we need people to subscribe. So if you go to Untamed Pursuits, give them a listen and help them out. Give them a thumbs up, give them something.
Come on now.
Subscribing would probably be the best.
Would not hurt. Rate them.
Never
subscribe.
hurts.
Yep.
Kiddies, never hurts. In the news.
Oh boy, harmful substances in soft plastic lures. Risks for anglers and the environment.
So first of all, I want to come out and say this is not new. It's not something that, oh my God, what's going on in the fishing industry? This has been going on. It seems like every decade it gets new life. I remember in the early 80s.
Obviously, it hasn't been taken care of yet, right? By the sounds of things.
No, because ultimately what happens is that when push comes to shove, 2 things. Number one, the industry players that are involved, and I'm talking to plastic bait companies, are a pretty significant group, okay? And they do have a significant amount of resources to push back. Generally, these concerns are brought up by folks who don't fish, folks who don't use the outdoors, folks, and I dare say, and I don't make me say it.
Tree hugger? Is that what you're going to say?
Oh, I wish you hadn't said that, because it just... Yes.
Oh my.
I'll say it for you every time, buddy. I'll volunteer every time.
So what happens is that it gets a little bit of momentum, and then all of a sudden the other group comes in and says, whoa, where's the science? And that's usually where it breaks down, right?
Right.
Good, qualified, honest to goodness science. Although this story, you might want to check it out, does seem to have a bit of science involved. In fact, it was published in Science of the Total Environment. And it's an interesting story because it does talk about some of the harmful side effects of dumping. I don't know whether they talk about the tonnage involved, but every year as anglers worldwide, we are probably responsible for dropping tonnage of chemically built and engineered baits.
Yep. Yeah, not even on purpose. That means you lose a plastic worm, you lose a a soft stick bait. It just comes off your hook and it's going to the bottom of the lake, right?
And how many of us actually think at that point? I know I don't. I still don't. I can read this story 100 times.
You get pissed off, you got to put a new one on. Shit, give me another one.
But I don't say, oh, darn.
Yeah.
Hey, Pete, can you see if we can get over there with the boat? Maybe I can jump in and
piss off. Let's go.
You don't think that way.
We don't. For sure we don't.
But these critters, and we all use them, each one.
Wow, look at them. Look at that array. Good picture there, Dean and Nick or whoever. That's an ocho over there. Those are ochos. Yeah. Wow, look at that. Actually,
so
that's all
happening?
Strike King. That's all Strike King stuff.
Is it?
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter the brand. I guess,
it's all good stuff.
Everybody. I did some experimenting one time in our aquarium back in the day when we had this big 10,000-gallon freshwater aquarium in our building where we were producing shows. And so we had a chance to go and see how predators react to certain things. And one of the things that I used to like doing, now in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have, is I would feed them various plastic baits.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just to see how they would react to them and if they liked them. Obviously, if they were, poo-pooing something, I wasn't going to use that bait in the water. So mostly for color and texture and taste. Oh. And there were a couple that they actually thought was food, and they would eat them out and eat them up and shoot them out a couple of days later. So.
Poop them out?
Yeah. One of them is the Yamamoto products. I mean, those things are to them it's food. You could probably
they built it
feed
that
them.
way, right? That's what they built it with all the proteins in it and amino acids in it to imitate real food.
But unfortunately, most of them are not good for them. But they will attempt to eat them, swallow them, can't expel them out the front side, can't get rid of them from the other side, and it does become. I've
heard people opening up lake trout and having. Like a Senko in the belly of it, and it's just some say that it'll never come out. Some will say that they won't poop it out if it's sitting in there for more than a few days. It's stuck in there somewhere in the intestine.
Because it doesn't break down. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't break down. So that's the problem, right? That's what they're looking for. Biodegradable is what the perfect rule would be. Biodegradable.
There was a product that came out. I said this happens every decade. In the mid '80s, it was at a high. I mean, the environmentalists were right on top of their game, and they were bringing the whole world, they're getting their attention on this issue. And a really smart company took advantage of that for a brief little moment, little window in time, and they came up with a totally biodegradable bait. I don't know whether you remember it or not. I
remember something about it.
They took shapes of, they had, at the time, one of the culprits was Uncle Buck's.
Uncle Buck's. I remember that. That name.
Pork frog.
Right.
Remember the pork
Uncle
frog?
Josh.
Uncle Josh, pork frog, right? And they had different shapes of these pork frogs. Right? Anyways, they were apparently not good for the fish. But
what about the pork frogs? Would that be bad? That's pork. That's
I know,
actually,
but it's the skin,
and
it doesn't break down. Right? And those big chunks.
Yeah.
Fish swallows that.
I like those big. I used to see them in the fall. The great big giant chunks. They were the best.
So this company decided to make a product that was totally biodegradable. It was like 80% water. Okay. And they cut them in the shape of all of these very popular profiles, like the frog and all that stuff. And they would put them in a jar with some kind of liquid, water apparently. And if you took it out of the water, it would shrivel up to nothing. Which means that most of the time, once you use it and then you put it on the deck, you put the rod away and get another rod out. By the time you go back to it, it's gone.
He's done. Yeah.
So they tried and it didn't work. They put tons of marketing dollars behind it too, because conceptually it was fantastic. When you put them in the water, they would puff up.
Were fish eating them like at the time when they were
I tried
testing them?
I tried the hell out of them, and I'll be honest with you, I kept going back to pork.
Yeah.
It just seemed to work better.
Yeah.
Maybe it was here. Maybe we didn't give them enough time. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. Your pork. Well, we had to keep them wet too. Remember, we had the little pork sleeves that we had to
would dry up too.
You have to keep them all wet up, or they'll dry up all day.
But this, I wish I could remember. If you're listening out there and you remember the name, let me know. I'd be curious. But anyways, it was tried and it didn't seem to work. Anyways, this news story that's in the news right now is pretty fascinating. If you want to get yourself in the know about the effects of plastic baits.
I'd like to know the companies, the brands that they did. They examined 16 common models. I'd like to know the brands. Maybe in the study. Dean, you know anything if they
didn't name anything.
They didn't,
No.
Usually they don't and stuff like that, right? But I wonder if we could dig into it deeper or something.
Well, I'm going to go on a limb. If we're talking, the top 10 companies that are that would represent the lion's share of the product that we're putting in the environment. And obviously, Berkeley's got to be as close to the top as you can. Yamamoto's got to be right up there with them. I would say those two
Strike
brands.
King is huge.
Strike King is another one.
They all. I mean, they're all in the mind of the fishermen. As Ange and myself, they're excellent. They work so well. They're great. I don't know what the biology is to them and the plasticizers, et cetera, but I'll tell you what, they catch fish.
Phthalate.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you. Nice prompt. Part of the study, scientific study, had results that were quite alarming. 10 out of the 16 baits that were examined released various plasticizers, including known harmful
Phthalate.
phthalates. All right.
That kind of sounds a little bit kinky, that girl there, the way she's saying that. She had a little something at the end of that. It might turn into something nasty.
That could
Phthalate.
be. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was a 61-day observation period that they played around with this stuff. In addition, 45 other persistent mobile and toxic plastic additives were detected. So it wasn't one or two, but 45. Opinions, I guess, at this point might be of interest. I'm a hard one to really sort of get excited over this because, like I told you, I've gone through 4 iterations of this already in my lifetime in this the fishing community, and I have yet to see, even with science, I've yet to see. And I like to experience stuff on my own. I've yet to see the tangible results, negative or positive, of introducing plastic baits into our environment. And I've also yet to see where it's so obvious that there is like tonnage going in every day, because I don't see it.
That's my thought. My thought, just when you were talking there, was the same thing as on a good day of bass fishing. You and I go out bass fishing. We have tons of plastic parts laying in the bottom of the boat.
In the boat.
We don't throw them in the lake, so we throw all kinds in the. How much of that actually goes in the lake? Not much. Honestly, how often do you lose? Your Senko breaks in half. You throw it in the bottom of the boat. You put a new one on. Maybe a claw off of a plastic, jig trailer. Maybe one of the claws comes out, but rarely the whole thing doesn't come off ever.
No.
And you got good keepers on hooks now that add even more stability to keeping that bait on. So like Z-Man, I can't see how a fish would ever get a Z-Man off because I can't get him off the hook. No. You know what I mean? And you can't break him. You grab a claw or it stretches a mile before it tears an inch. So,
What stretches more?
You can say that joke if you want. Do you want to say that joke?
Oh, I don't know.
But yeah, it's religious kind of.
My thoughts there too. Even for walleye anglers who use a lot of plastic grubs, like how often do you lose
even
a
the
grub?
tail? Even the tail stays
maybe
on.
a little tiny piece off the tail, and then you take it off, put it
drop
in the boat,
her down, and get a new one
on.
Yeah,
so
it's not very.
That's what I mean. I have yet to see. I've yet to witness personally the evidence that would lead me to believe it's an issue. It's an issue only in the sense that they're right. They're absolutely right. The results are, scientific proof that we are leaving some chemical something from these baits in the water. There's no doubt. But I guess from a personal standpoint, I'm not convinced yet that it's almost negligible to me in my thinking.
It's the same deal with lead versus.
Oh my God! Don't get me started on that.
They're doing all the deal with that too. Everybody's against us. They're all against us. They're not with us anymore.
And where's that lead thing coming from?
Oh, the tree huggers.
California.
Going to California.
California.
Yeah.
California is where you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly.
Everybody's got to use tungsten now, right?
Hills, that is.
Swimming pools and movie stars. Texas tea.
That's where it starts. And from there, it spreads like a cancer.
Yeah. And my favorite way of bass fishing is plastics. I love throwing plastics. This is my deal, right? Jigs or plastics. It's the way I love it. So it's a tough one for me to move off of, that's for sure. So.
And we're going to move off of it now, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
so let's go right to. Hopefully, we've helped or not helped you. I don't know. Sometimes we help people. Sometimes we don't. I feel like we're psychiatrists. Sometimes what we say works. Other times it doesn't. It doesn't always work for everybody. Just remember that. Take everything we say with a grain of salt.
I just had a thought here. I want to go over this before we go to the fan question. It's a little tip. It'll end up being a tip, and you're gonna shit your pants when I tell you this.
No way.
Yeah. So. Up at the French, we did the Shout Air Lodge last week. Up at the French River. Okay. Go ahead. What?
I was going to go on to something else, but
you're going to say no way. You're going to say how does this happen?
Go.
Shout Air. Long story short, Vova and Dean are shooting the lodge. We get there. Vova and Dean are shooting the lodge. I said, boys, I'm going to take the boat out, make sure everything's working. I'm going to take a little scout around. I'm going to map some water around the lodge, et cetera, et cetera. Boom, boom, around like that. Long story short, I find a beautiful little spot that I say, hey, wow, look at this. I put the power poles down.
Around the lodge?
Yeah, not too far from the lodge. Through the cut, that little one-way rock through there, and then out that channel down there. I was just pottering.
We never stopped there.
No. And I was seeing bait galore on the Garmins, and I'm just, wow, I'm loving all this. Drop the power poles down. I'm looking around. I see some shallows, some wood, and then I say, maybe I'll see a largemouth. I wasn't going to cast. I'll see a largemouth, right? Pull the poles up, drop the trolling motor in, put it on. Oh, you dummy! You got to turn the dial. I spent the dial on there. Nothing. I am not moving a millimeter. Not moving a millimeter. And I'm freaking out now. I'm thinking, what the hell's wrong with my trolling motor? I look down. The prop was off of our trolling motor. Gone. So these props are held on. You have a little pin in there that goes through the shaft that holds it from spinning. And then you put the prop on, you put a bushing on, you put a washer on, a lock washer on, and a nut. Not a nylon nut, a nut you put on. When you put them on, you crack them good and hard, but you don't want to over tighten it because you can put the prop against the housing and then it rubs, right? So you just make sure it's there. The only thing left was that pin. That pin somehow stayed in there. It was spinning around. That pin was there. Now, thank God we had a spare prop in the boat, or I was euchred.
Okay, how does the pin stay there?
I don't know how that pin stayed there, but it stayed.
In order to lose the prop, it means at some point the shaft was spinning.
Yeah, or...
And once that prop, the nut... flew, the washer went, and the prop went. How does the pin stay when
it was stuck in there enough to not get rid of it?
And did you have an extra pin just in case?
Yes. I had everything. I had everything spare. Wow. But I went back to the dock, and I asked the boys, do we have a nylon nut that matches this thing? And I put a nylon nut on, and it seems to be good so far, but I've never had that before. But my point is, if you run an electric motor a lot and you fish with an electric motor, bring a spare prop and all the nut and everything, because that trip could have been ruined.
When did you decide to pack a spare prop?
Because we had them ordered when our big Garmin order. So I said, well, it's not too good in the office. Let's put her in the boat, right? Thank God. So, yeah.
Did you go back to the spot that you wanted to fish?
No.
You never went back?
No. No.
It could have been an omen, like you could have found the honey hole of the upper French River.
It was an omen that I didn't get all the way out there, and then the prop was who knows where. But anyways, it blew my mind. How I've never had a prop off of a trolling motor.
Is it possible, I'm just throwing this out there, that somebody
I thought.
Maybe when you parked it at a gas station or whatever.
Dean, I said that, didn't I, Dean?
Yeah, that was
we
the
stopped
thought.
up right before one of those really crowded places where we buy our cigars and all that stuff like
Yeah.
that. There was guys all over the place. They were milling in the parking lot. There was fishing dudes, but I can't see fishing dudes stealing a prop like that. Maybe he's an asshole, but not these guys that are out.
The reason I say that
is
is because last time we used that boat, it was perfectly fine.
yeah.
And it just seems weird that
It just drew my head was just, I thought, what the hell? How did that happen?
Like those bolts backing out of our Mercury motor that one time.
Exactly.
It didn't happen on their own.
Exactly. There's stories to this stuff. There's something
out
going
there.
on. They're sabotaging us. I'll show those Fish in Canada guys. It was Leo. Leo got me.
Stop it with
Hi, sorry, Leo. I love you, buddy. Anyways, carry a spare prop and all the gear with it, including the
nice
pin.
tip.
Yeah.
Nice tip. I like that.
Just in
we should be
case.
charging for this. See,
Yeah, you're right.
Why are we giving this away? This is
It's
gold.
because we have our people that are with us here. These are
They'll
avid,
pay for it. They'll pay for wisdom like
They'll
that.
pay for the T-shirts and stuff like that. Let them pay for the T-shirts, and we'll give them the nuggets like that. So, okay.
Speaking of nuggets, fan question of the week. That I see some people get confused, right? Including me, by the way.
No.
Yeah, because earlier we talked about the
Listener feedback.
So, and that's because it did not end in a question mark. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's all about the punctuation.
So it's got to have a question mark. Okay.
All
right.
about the punctuation.
It's all about the question mark. All right. So this week we have one with a question mark.
Yes, and it is a question.
Right.
I ask a simple
It
question.
comes from Jordan Del Pelato from Ontario.
Del
via
Palero.
email.
Come on.
Pelato.
Pelato. That's the way you say it.
It's not Pelato. It's Peloto. Pelato.
Pelota.
Del Pelato from Ontario. Northern Ontario, I'll bet.
Why is that?
I just got a feeling.
Is that,
with a name
is that
like
French? Do you think that name is French?
No.
Del Pelato.
No, it could
Do you
be.
think it's
anything.
Italian? Has he ever
Could
seen
be.
that?
Could be. Anyways, he submitted a question via Facebook or Instagram. I'm not sure. Via email.
yeah, he emailed that.
So there's 3 ways of getting to us, Dean.
Oh, there's more than that, yeah.
Oh, there's more than 3.
You can do it on YouTube, on the website.
God, love
you. Can get
you.
us anywhere.
Wow. Jordan wants to know, what's the best way to remove a hook a fish has swallowed without hurting the fish, obviously? He wants to know, what's the best way to remove a hook that the fish has swallowed, Mr. Bowman? By the way, my chair is squeaking.
I thought you were farting. I thought you were
No,
passing a bit of
I
wind.
know, and I wish I could lay claim to that, but I can't. It's my chair. We need to get
I was going to say, your farts don't
maintenance
stink for
people in
once.
here to
It's
fix
good.
that.
Come on now.
Answer the question.
Well, if it's swallowed,
I'm assuming he's
you're
talking
not
about
removing. If it's deeply hooked in the throat
swallowed.
versus swallowed right in.
Swallowed.
If it's swallowed, you got to cut your line. I think, the only way you can do it is
Bingo.
get your scissors in as far as you can, so you don't leave a big tag hanging out either.
Bingo.
And then try and cut that and clip that line, and then hope for Mother Nature takes care of business. You know.
But what if that hook is on the end of a $25 bait?
Well, you'd split ring it off or
That's
something.
pretty tough, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it or not? I'm just asking these questions. I mean, it's
no.
fine if it's a single hook.
You would
And-
cut, like the muskie anglers are the best at this.
'Cause
They
they got
carry
these-
Nipex tools that just,
just-
you cut all the steel away from it. There's a little wee bit left over, and then that usually gets rid of it like that. So you can cut away. If you have a pair of side cutters in your boat, not many people carry that, but you might be able to slide a cutter in of some type like that. But if it's swallowed, the more you hack at it, you're going to kill a fish.
Oh, without
you're going to
question.
kill that fish.
Even
There's
if you're at the point where you've handled that fish enough to know that hook is so deeply buried that you got a problem, chances are you got a problem already on your hands, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that keeps rearing its not so ugly head in our industry, it's a notion that we have been talking about for at least 40 years. It keeps coming up, going away, coming up and going away. We recently experienced it in Northwest Territories, and that is maybe, and I'm not suggesting this be the case, but maybe barbless hooks might be a bit of a solution to some of these tricky?
It'll make it a
tight
lot
spots?
easier, for sure.
Because then you can just back the hook out by pushing it back in.
Yeah, they come out very
Right.
easily when you do that. It's pretty amazing how easily they come out, but sometimes too easily. You lose your fish of a lifetime too, right?
I know,
So-
but that's the delicate, balance that we face as anglers, right?
Right.
What,
The other thing about it, it's accidental most of the time. But I fished with somebody not that long ago, and they were waiting too long with a bait, and the fish literally tried to swallow it. Like that, you got to kind of get a good feel for things, and the more you fish, the better you're going to get at this. But when you feel that bite, a couple of seconds at most for some, for the most part, and set that hook. You don't want them to swallow it and eat it like that, right? So
we've had big crankbaits swallowed before.
Oh yeah,
too.
sometimes a
we
largemouth just sucks it in, and when they suck it in, that's what they do.
Yeah.
They literally hoover it in there, and it goes way back, and then you can't help that for sure. That's on the initial hook set. But there is a way, like if you, I don't know if you see this online and YouTube or anything like that, but if the fish
By the
has
way,
got it kind of at the
hang
back.
on for a second. Nicky's got to leave. Apparently, he came. I didn't even notice. He actually came in and sat in for a couple of minutes. Now he's got to leave. See you, Nick.
Nick, you just interrupted my whole monologue here.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
So if it's hooked in and you can see, a lot of times you'll see it in that, like the meat of the throat, but you can see all the hook. The hook barb has gone through, and you just know it's way back there deep. That's not good, but there is a way. You have to know what you're doing. You can take your pliers and you can go in beside the gill plate, not in the gills. You go in beside the gill plate and beside the first set of gills very carefully, and you turn the hook around because you need room. That's the problem. When you put pliers in the mouth, you can't turn the hook. You can't invert the hook around so it comes out. You can't turn it reverse. That way you can do it. You get it right, and you can pop it like that. And then you just take your thing out, and then you can either grab the hook, cut the line, or you can try and take it through, but you're better off just cutting the line, pulling it out, and the fish. So many times.
That's a two-man job.
Yeah, but it is doable.
It is doable. It is, and you're right, because at that point, if you do nothing.
Yeah, if you rip at it, you're gonna bleed him out.
At
You know
that
what I mean?
point,
So
it might be worth taking a shot at it.
But you'd have to learn that one.
It's going to be somewhere along the line. We as anglers are going to have to make a decision on what is the threshold between pure enjoyment of what we do and the safety of the fish that we're.
Do you think we'll see it in our lifetime? Barbless?
I think so.
Completely barbless? Really?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I plan on hanging around for a while. I don't know about you. I mean, I'm not going anywhere for.
Couple days.
Yeah, at least. So I think it will happen for sure, because at the end of the day, I know with Pete and I mean, if we inadvertently hurt a fish and harm it, God forbid, kill it.
Well, we're not fishing for meat.
When we're not fishing for meat,
for
obviously,
catch and release.
It's devastating.
It's not. Yeah, it's
devastating.
not
good. We had a fish just recently. That we had to spend some time on reviving.
Where was that?
In WT. And we thought once we had revived it, we thought it had swam away, and it didn't. It came back up, so we went and got the fish again and worked with it again.
She did swim away, though, didn't it?
Eventually, finally.
We took a lot of work.
But it's important to us. It's funny because it's once the fight is over, like you have more. I care more about those fish at that moment in time than I do a lot of humans that I know. So
well said.
I think it's going to be incumbent on us to figure it out if we want to keep getting the rush that we do from fishing.
And that was a barbless, by the way.
And that was a barbless.
Barbless. That shows you that sometimes even that is not the best.
So, Jordan, hopefully we've answered your question. If you have something in particular, a little more detail, maybe you could write back into us and let us know. We'll see if we can address that. But now, we also have to concern ourselves about fish that want to hurt us.
Back in 2016, Frank and I had a vision: to amass the single largest database of muskie angling education material anywhere in the world.
Our dream was to harness the knowledge of this amazing community and share it with passionate anglers just like you.
Thus, the Ugly Pike podcast was born and quickly grew to become one of the top fishing podcasts in North America.
Step into the world of angling adventures and embrace the thrill of the catch with the Ugly Pike podcast. Join us on our quest to understand what makes us different as anglers and to uncover what it takes to go after the infamous fish of 10,000 casts.
The Ugly Pike podcast isn't just about fishing. It's about creating a tight-knit community of passionate anglers who share the same love for the sport. Through laughter, through camaraderie, and an unwavering spirit of adventure, this podcast will bring people together.
Subscribe now and never miss a moment of our angling adventures. Tight lines, everyone.
Find Ugly Pike now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcasts.
We interrupt this program to bring you the much anticipated bonus code for the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. This week's code is LAKER. All caps, L-A-K-E-R. Laker, a.k.a. the lowly old gray lake trout. Just type that in the bonus code section of the contest and receive 100 free entries towards all of our current giveaways. For those of you who aren't entered yet, what are you waiting for? Head over to fishingcanada.com while you listen to the rest of this episode. Click contests and sign up for all the latest Fishing Canada giveaways. And now, back to the episode.
All right, now to the main story. As we spoke at the top of the show, remarkable, well, maybe not as remarkable as a couple of years ago. This is, I think, the fifth one that we have been fortunate enough to report, or unfortunate, however
They're
you
all
want to
kind
call
of
it.
remarkable in a way, right?
Absolutely.
You and I have been at this game and in the waters of this country, and especially this province, for many, many years, and we've never had it happen to us.
Never heard of it, never had it until, these things start popping up.
Yeah.
Joining us now from California, we haven't found out where yet in California, we'll find out here in a minute, is George and Max Mandl. Hi, guys. Welcome to the program.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Thanks for joining us. First of all, where are we in California?
We are in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles.
Nice.
Okay,
Big
perfect.
time. Yeah.
You were up here in Canada recently, and maybe you could just explain quickly to the folks what you were doing in Montreal and Quebec.
Sure. Well, we just took a day at the local beach in Parc Jean Dlecot. Pardon my
Hey,
pronunciation.
that was
That's not
very
bad.
good for a
Not
Californian,
bad.
I'll tell you, buddy. Not bad at all.
I'm better at it every time I say it. And we were swimming on this, what was it called, Max? What was that thing called?
Aquazilla.
Aquazilla. It's like this inflatable playground they have there.
Okay.
It's sort of like if you think of like a bounce castle material,
Right.
like on the water with trampolines and little.
Oh,
Now,
cool.
was this right on the St. Lawrence, guys? Was it on the St. Lawrence River, or was it separate from the river itself?
In the park itself, a little body of water, or?
Yeah, it was a man-made lake inside,
Okay.
the park, which I believe is on a man-made island.
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure how all that stuff is laid out, but I know there was an F1 track right next to where we were swimming.
Oh,
Yep.
cool. Right on.
Yeah, so we were just hanging out there in the water, and next thing you know, Max is getting attacked by something, and was pulled out of the water with a bloody leg and a bunch of bite marks and lacerations on his leg. He was treated by an incredible team of lifeguards, rushed off to Children's Hospital, and treated in the ER there with stitches and antibiotics.
Wow.
And every way was like real surprised.
No
kidding.
So, Max, you're playing around. You were standing in the water at the
Yeah,
time.
were you?
right
You
in?
weren't on the floatzilla or whatever, right? You were just swimming or on the beach or walking, or what were you doing?
Well, they give you these life vests, and I was just floating in the water right next to it.
Okay, so you were floating
He's
in the
a
water.
topwater bait. I think that he was a topwater bait.
Figures he
Big
come up with
buzz
that.
bait coming up.
So you were floating around and having fun and playing and laughing and then tell us, if you could, what happened next, if you can remember that moment when you knew there was something going on.
It was just a flash of pain hitting my leg.
Oh,
It was just something jabbing into it.
really?
Wow.
And then I felt something slash it 2 times.
Yeah.
So
And what did you do? Did you hit it? Did you try and beat it off? Did you know?
I I couldn't see it. It was so fast with so much pain. So the lifeguard just pulled me out. They wrapped it, and then they took me to like this room where they just keep people, and then they rewrapped it, and then they called the ambulance.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the ambulance wrapped it.
Wow. How did you have to call out to the lifeguards, or were you just screaming in pain and people knew what was going on, or how did that happen?
I was just screaming in pain, and they just swam over and pulled me out.
Yeah, they knew. The lifeguards are trained, obviously, for hearing stuff like that, and panic, and et cetera, et cetera.
George, the farthest thing from your mind at that moment, obviously, is that there is a living organism below the water that's biting your son's leg. I mean, how do you make the connection? I'm just trying to put myself in that position, because it's, like I say, the farthest thing from your mind. It's not like you were there saying, okay, we got to watch out for these big Canadian fish up here. They're going to bite me.
Yeah.
Like, take us through that process with the minute that you had to turn on the fear factor, as it were.
Yeah. No, it was, 0 to 60 instantly. I mean, I was, weirdly, when he was kind of like yelling in the water at first, I wasn't super concerned, because he had actually had trouble getting off, like onto the dock a couple times earlier in the day. And the lifeguards had already kind of been grabbing his life vest, and it was very cute. They were like grabbing his life vest and pulling him out and placing him on the dock just to like help him get out. So I kind of at first thought it was another one of those. But what clicked was when they pulled him out, and he was like on the float, still like wiggling around and screaming and, thrashing and stuff. And that's when I sort of was like, oh, this ain't right.
Something's up.
And I that's when the nightmare sort of began. I ran over, looked down at him. He was screaming like I have not heard him scream before. And yeah, his leg was just like gushing.
Oh. God.
And ended up how many stitches, et cetera, when there was all said and done?
Fortunately, it was just 2, because I've been tracking other stories online, and a lot of them seem a lot worse. Like I think I just read one that was 13.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I read another one, I believe, on the Fishing Canada site that was 28. I think.
Yeah. Kim Driver was her name, out of Manitoba. Yeah, that was a terrible bite.
That was a nasty one.
And what do you guys figure happened there? I mean, you've come up with a million different ideas, I'm sure, on, first of all, what it was, how big it might have been. Why would it have just come in, took a quick bite? It sounds like it was like a flash. It was like a second or two, and then it just let go. Have you come up with some theories to give us the audience some ideas of what's going on in your head?
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been somewhat obsessed with this since it happened. I've been trying to figure out, because I'm not like I don't go fishing. I'm not like I'm not like in the community.
Right.
So this is all like sort of like we were just like 2 civilians swimming, and this I think from what I've asked people about, what I've been told, what I've found on the internet, and also we've been on the news a few times. So like there have been like experts who've kind of chimed in, and I think my understanding of what probably happened is that there was a muskie in that water that attacked him, thinking his leg was food. As soon as it bit into his leg, realized, oh no, this isn't food. This may actually be a threat. Max starts thrashing around under the water. The fish starts thrashing around under the water. So the fish releases the knee, and then I believe has, and you guys could inform me on this, but I believe has like sharp blade-like parts on its body.
Oh yeah,
that protect its gills or other, important functions of the fish that like if it's backing out of an attack, it's going to thrash around, and those things are going to slice whatever's in the way. And so when I look at his leg and I look at the injuries, I can see like bite marks, and then I can see what look like razor blade slashes.
Right.
Wow.
the gill plates probably.
I don't think a muskie has a sharp like a walleye does, but I don't think a muskie does. It could have been all done by teeth. You just didn't realize it was so fast. But their teeth are incredibly sharp, and they're not round and pointy. They're like a shark's tooth. They're like a angle, like an arrowhead. You know what I mean? And just like razors, like that. So it just touches something, and it'll cut. We've been cut so many times by pike and the odd muskie, and their teeth are the exact same, and they are nasty. So it probably was the teeth that did everything. That was all the cutting, but just in a different manner. But he was thrashing and moving and getting out of there. Maybe.
I'm curious, who came up with the conclusion that it was a muskie? Do you remember?
I have a friend who fishes in Minnesota who's been fishing for his whole life, and he's caught all sorts of things. He thought it was a muskie. He thought maybe somebody said pike. I think one of the lifeguards said maybe a pike, and I presented that to him, and he said, "Nah, they don't do that." He didn't think this was a pike. He thought it was a muskie. And now in the news, we've had a few people. I'll tell you their names if you want. There's I've got maybe you know these guys. I don't know. Let's see. Michael Lazarus.
Oh yeah, Mike Lazarus is the best muskie guide in Canada, in the world, right there.
So that sounds credible.
Yeah, he's very credible.
And there was another one. He suggested, and this is from CBC. He suggested that he said the fish has probably been in the basin for years and will never bite another human again.
I don't know about that, but
yeah, he said muskies are plentiful around Montreal, even though the lake where Max was swimming is man-made, separated from the St. Lawrence River by a series of filters.
Right.
Lazarus knows there are muskies in it. He used to catch them there before it was closed to angling 20 years ago.
Okay, so there's fish. There's definitely muskie there. Okay.
Here's a weird thing, though. This is what's kind of tripped me up. Is I spoke to someone at the park, and she said that man-made lake is drained at the end of every summer and refilled at the beginning of the summer. And they have a series of like vault doors that open and close with filters on them. Yeah. So, and she was like, the only water that's left in there after we drain it is extremely shallow. And it doesn't seem like there would be, unless there was something.
Well, no, and it would freeze for sure. It would be frozen most of from November till probably April. So,
see, if that's the case, my thought would be somebody put that muskie in the water that year. This year,
if in fact it's a muskie.
Well, what else is it?
I don't know.
It's not a pike. It could be a pike. That's the only other thing. It's probably not a pike, like Mike said. There's not. But if it was a muskie, somebody put it in because it was not going to survive the winter, as you said, as both you guys have said. The lack of water, the iced up, and that the only way that muskie could get in there is somebody did an illegal transfer.
Yeah, possibly.
You know,
Max, do you remember if it tried to pull you under at all?
No.
No, it just came in, quick little boom, boom, and gone. There was no tug of war kind of going on between you? No.
It was very fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Luckily. Thank God.
Now, how do you feel about that, Max? Can you hardly wait till the next time you jump in the water, or are you a little bit nervous about getting back in the water? Talk to us about your feelings on that.
I don't go back into like any of those like rivers or lakes anymore. None of those kinds.
Right.
Okay.
Till it's healed, till it's like just regular, like everything is healed, like the stitches have been dissolved.
Yeah. But you also, Max, what happened to you is like almost like once in a lifetime kind of a thing.
It's like winning a lottery.
It's like winning a lottery. It's like,
honestly, it's that odd.
It's once and done. So I don't think you need to worry about it, ever happening again.
There's a positive to it, Max, though. When you show the girls when you're like 18 and 20 years old, you're going to go, hello, ladies, check out the story here. You're going to show them the scars, and you're going to be able to tell them a good story. That's going to get you somewhere in life, buddy.
Have you had a chance to talk to your buddies yet about it?
A few of them.
What do they say?
They think it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's quite a story.
For sure,
It's a
it's pretty
crazy
cool.
story.
George, tell people what you do for a living.
Oh, I'm a film and TV editor
Where?
here in Los Angeles.
Nice. Anything that you worked on that we would be familiar with?
Do you guys like Mel Brooks?
Oh, I love Mel Brooks.
Yeah, so he recently, last year, we released History of the World Part 2.
No way. I didn't see that.
That was my work.
Nice.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
I love part 1.
I think it has a different name. At least the CBC called it something else, but I learned that was the French name for it. I think it was like the Mad History of the World or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Is it available on like a Netflix or anything like that now? Do you know? Or can we see
It's on Hulu.
Okay, Hulu, yep.
Okay, we'll check it out.
Yeah.
Cool.
How long you been doing this?
Oh, I'm probably somewhere between 15 and 20 years.
Oh, nice. Great career.
Yeah.
Wonderful career.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Sure. And can you just quickly tell folks what you guys were doing? Like Los Angeles, Montreal. Quite a gap there. What's the purpose of your visit to Quebec?
Well, Max's grandfather is from Quebec and likes to show off his homeland to his family and
nice.
Have us hang out with the relatives and that sort of thing. So it was family visit. But we also just love Montreal. It's such a nice break from Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
It's a walking city. It's easy to get around. People are not much nicer.
Have you been?
It's a nice city. It really is.
Have you been to this park before? Have you guys been
Not
there?
to this park. No, we've been to Montreal before, but not to this place.
So as the first, are you going to be going again?
I really like the park. I think we'll probably skip the beach.
I
The
can't imagine
Floatzilla
why.
or whatever that thing is. Yeah.
No, I don't know.
I can't imagine why. Listen, it's first of all, thank you very much for giving us your time. I know when things like this happen, you're inundated with calls and people who want time from you, and we appreciate you joining us. For us, it's interesting because we've kind of made a point of following these stories through the last few years just to see if we can make some sense of it. Because listen, we've spent our entire lives in the water, on top of the water, fishing for these fish, releasing these fish, handling these fish. We've never, ever felt for one moment that any of these predator fish that we have engaged have ever had the thought of attacking a human being. So we're fascinated by these things because they're just totally out of character for these fish.
So many times we'll take a fish, and if it needs good revival, we'll just hold it at the side of the boat. You're not even thinking a muskie could grab that, right? I mean, it could grab that easier than a leg when you think it would be a better target. But we're just nonchalantly doing that for 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it is takes to get that fish better. Yeah, it's kind of it's weird. It's odd, that's for sure.
So when it does happen, we want to see if we can get some information and hopefully be able to put together some kind of reasonable answer to the many questions that it poses. Because
I think it's still muskie. I think it's all the muskie attacks. I think it just seems that way. They're just that nasty, fearless predator. So if you guys, since you're not fishermen, very quickly, muskie is one of the only fish that anglers catch at least 50% of them beside the boat. And these fish come and attack the lure beside the boat, and they don't even care about a 20-foot boat beside them. They are fearless of that kind of stuff. So a pike will not do that as a rule. The odd one has been caught like that, but not very many. And most other fish are almost afraid of boats and that. So these muskies, they are a fearless predator. They are the apex predator in our water for sure. So
I mean, I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind that regardless of what it was, that the creature was acting out of instinct. It was trying to feed, right? And at that moment, from where it was, it thought that Max's leg was food.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think we can look at this as anything other than nature at its best, right? So, and unfortunately or fortunately, Max was right in the center of
Max
it.
is the center of attention now, you see? He's the big deal. Yeah.
Anyways, guys, we really appreciate you joining us. Max,
Get well, buddy.
Get well and get back out there.
Yeah. Don't stop swimming because of that, buddy.
No, for sure.
You'll be good.
And George, thank you very much once again for making yourselves available. Wish you all the best and keep on coming up to La Belle Provence and
having a good time.
Having a good time for sure.
Thanks so much for having us on. It's a pleasure to talk to you guys and try to, bat some of this around. We're so curious.
Yeah,
no kidding. If you find anything else, get back to Dean or whatever. Get a hold of us. Email us or call us or something like that. The more you find out, please.
Yeah, same. If anyone sees the podcast and is like, "Oh yeah,
perfect,"
we'd love to know.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. You take care of
See you,
yourselves.
boys.
Thank you. See you, Max. Wow.
Crazy story.
Yeah.
It's a lot of leg attacks too, right? The lady, that Manitoba lady, I think was a leg attack.
Well, that's because that's what's sitting there.
It's
right?
either hanging in the water or whatever. I do hear of the attacks when people are doing it with their hands, like off a dock. They say, they got attacked by the odd time, but not. It's so rare. Good God, it's so rare.
This one in particular, because of the circumstances.
Because of where it was.
Where it was, man-made, apparently, according to them.
Drained every year.
Drained every year. So it's not a fish that's been there for 20, 30 years.
They said it's approximately a meter, so 36-inch muskie. It's an older fish. It's not a 1-year-old fish. It can't come in there through the filter, somehow get up high and be 36 inches in a year. It ain't going to happen.
There's a lot of things here that don't quite make sense, right?
Yeah.
So, regardless, it's something worth keeping an eye on, and we certainly will do that. We'll add it to our collection. Once again, that was George and Max Mandl from California.
Another muskie, another fish bite, another biting story. We can't say everything positive, but
we don't know nothing about it. Let's be honest. The other ones we've known, it was either muskie, somebody saw. We knew the size. Here, it's totally unknown.
Yeah.
Little kids in the water.
They estimated 36 inches. I don't even know where they got that. Maybe from the bite marks. If there was a rounded bite mark on it, maybe.
See, to me, that seems small.
Yeah.
If I was going to guess,
not,
based on the bites that I saw, that one particular gash on Max's leg, I would say that's a much bigger fish than 36. 36 is a relatively small muskie.
It's not a big muskie, no. Not big at all.
So you look at all the questions we have already, and it's just, it's just
ongoing. Yeah.
Same. Anyways, that's it, folks. I want to thank you all for joining us. Hope you enjoyed that story. If you have any questions regarding that, please reach out to us or comments, or if you've ever had an encounter with a fish,
we'll put you on the TV there on the YouTube.
We'll do that too. But let us know. Fishingcanada.com is the site, but you can go to info@fishingcanada.com.
That's your email address. Yep.
If you want to drop us a quick line. Thank you very much. Don't forget, fishingcanada.com, the portal, the gateway to your next fishing adventure, and all the new bling and clothes and stuff that are available through the store, information on the site, how-tos. Certainly, we're going to now tell you how not to get bit in a park in Montreal after this story. How's that? Maybe. On behalf of the entire team, Vova, thank you. Behind the camera, Nick was... by the way, Nick did the research on this story, which is kind of
nice. Thank you, Nick.
And, of course, our producer, Dean Taylor.
Mr. Dean.
Mr. Peter Bowman. I'm Angelo Viola. Thanks, folks. We'll catch you next time.